Once upon a time, this was the best spawn in the game. Now it's just an alternative profit hunt spawn. This is Placehill. This spawn is accessed through the Rasha and is part of the quest for the Ferumbus Ascension. Once inside the Ferumbus spawns, the northwest teleport to be more exact. In case you don't have access to the area, all you will need is 30 demonic essences, and once at the spawn, you will need to kill the mini-boss from the first floor once and that will be all. Additionally, before I get into the guide, I must clarify two things. One is that these recordings took place before the spawn rebalance where they buffed Plaguesmiths a bit, but I don't think that changes much. And also that the spawn can be hunted at lower level but for worse results, and I don't recommend doing so. The level 500 recommendation is in order to hunt side boxing, and that unlocks the full potential of the spawn. It is a difficult and annoying hunt to do, but the challenge is what some people find entertaining. In terms of experience, it lacks in comparison to alternatives in the low range, but in profit it should be worth hunting, if the price of the Greenleaf wings is right. So with that said, let's start. The main creatures of the spawn will be Grimleech, followed by Plaguesmiths, then Hellflyers and some defillers. Primarily Grimleech by far, which is why the spawn is considered for profit, as the Grimleech wings are needed for mana leech imbuement, and nowadays people don't hunt them often, usually just very high level solo hunting. For starters, defensively, everyone will need the Bourbon Rings. The main source of damage for both Knight and Paladin will be physical. Druid tanks a bit at the beginning of the pulls, so he also needs to have some physical protection. But once the EK is on his spot, most of the damage on the AD is fired from the AoE attacks and death from Hellfire beams. As for the Sorcerer, he also gets hit often, so physical protection is preferred. Additionally, since creatures here paralyze often, it can be helpful to have some movement speed pieces. Even Boots of Haste and using a mount can make a difference when dealing with paralyzes, but that is optional and usually affects people differently based on ping and their own movement style. For offense, you want to go with Thunderstorms, as energy damage is the best. This applies to EKs as well, but in the case you have the two-handed soul weapons of ice, then it can be used here for 3 imbuments, otherwise physical will do more damage. Additionally, since they're weak to Holy, the Paladin definitely wants to go with the Grenade, and the EMS should grab the bigger AoE on the X-Ray core. Since the Paladin will be sideboxing, then it will help him as well, but also do bring some UHs as you had to be on healing duty for either EK or RP depending on the situations. And now let's break down the lab, which includes only 5 pulls. When you get to the spawn the first time, you can do 1 pull north of the entrance, and then after that head to this spot where the pull will take place, by normally coming from the other floor through the northwest. EK does a lap around to allow the druid to pass through. It is important for the ED to be fast for all pulls, as he needs to get to his spot and hold it by using a tree wall to his side, and then optionally sometimes can place one for the EK's spot, but that is not always necessary, it just helps sometimes if it gets messy. Once the druid gets his spot, then as the EK just stand 2 squares in front of him and rest of the creatures attacking him. Continue to spam the XRS throughout the entire time, as creatures can and will retarget the ED. Additionally, I highly recommend to place an energy bomb for the EMS. This helps him a lot so he can get there and focus on damage or healing right away. As for the Paladin, usually stand by the left side of the EK on this pull, or when possible, lure creatures from the northeast. Next up, go south to the middle of the floor and set up around here. This is an optional pull that we had to do in order to avoid overkilling, but it's not the best one to do. The actual best spot is towards the southwest, by the wall of the mini-boss. However, that pull is much harder to do, as it will involve the EK and RP splitting off to lure from both rooms, with the MS and ED also splitting up with them, and the druid needs to get there first and place 2 walls on each side to make his spot, and then everyone comes after with their lures, and for the most part even the MS ends up tanking creatures. We couldn't do this with our druid, so instead we did this alternative option to make another pull by having the Paladin lure extra monsters from the southwest. After this, you will go to the northwest to take the teleport to the second floor. Had you done the hard pull instead, you can pull the lever for the mini-boss and go through his room to get back slightly faster, although we are talking about 2 seconds quicker, so not that important. Once at the second floor, go north, and in this room the ED sets up by the north wall. EK slightly lures from the left and the Paladin lures from the northeast. Meanwhile, the MS brings the monsters left behind on the south side. In general, for the MS, even though he will be on top of an energy bomb, which none of the monsters walk through normally because he is the only target they can get to, as both EK and RP are surrounded and ED is behind a wall, then the monsters will invade the bomb constantly and he needs to move on and off the bomb. This avoids him getting trapped inside it. For the next pull, go northwest. Druid sets up by the south wall this time, and EK lures slightly from the northwest. Going further helps to bring more monsters, but the path is narrow and it's hard to bring them out, but easy to get trapped yourself doing so. So you can optionally have DMS do that lure after you bring the initial monsters out. As for the Paladin, he goes all the way through the northeast, bringing creatures from there. This is by far the hardest pull, as it tends to have 4 to 5 Hellflyers, because of their AoE, and potentially hit enter beams on any of you. So it's good to be ready to mana shield as the Druid. And as the Paladin, sometimes moving to avoid the beam is worth doing. Just make sure to do that closer to the Druid, so you can still get healed with the Mass Rest, which I haven't explained, but as the Druid you want to be using Mass Rest every other turn, and your regular healing turn in between can be used as seals for the Paladin or EK, depending on whoever needs it the most, but also sometimes even healing yourself, since the pulls can vary a lot by the amount of Hellflyers and also if you have them or a Grim Leech beaming you. And similarly, DMS also throws in UHs to whoever needs it the most. In our case, since the Druid could not alternate heals, he will just heal me and DMS will heal the Paladin instead. Now for the next and last pull is by the southwest. Here as the EK you can go through the west side and lure monsters in, or you can go through the south and once in the room do a lap around to gather monsters. Meanwhile, both MS and RP lure the monsters left behind from the east side, and with that the lap is completed. After doing this pull, go back to the teleport and start over the rotation. Hunting like this on low 500s, our experience was of around the 4.4 kk raw, which could have been slightly higher to about 4.8 kk raw. And now with the recent experience buffs on placements, it should be possible to make around 5 kk raw. As for the Prophet, it should be around the 300k per person the hour, with around 25 Grimleash wings per person on top of that. Additionally, this spawn becomes really good during the Orcs Over Demon event, which we got to try during it, and our raw experience was of around the 7.6 kk, with DMS not having charms. So all things considered, I do recommend to hunt here a few times to get the bestiary, and then you will have a good experience option during the demon event. And since finishing the Grimleash and Placements is quite fast, then it's worth doing for that alone. Lastly, with the spawn rebalance of 2024, they also improved the experience for the Ferumbra bosses. And now, if I were to hunt here, I will do the boss on the way out, for a bit of extra bonus XP from it. With green stamina and a party of 5, we got 300k from it, so it's worth doing. Although the loot is pretty lackluster and the boss can be annoying to do. If you don't want to do the boss, then you can still go through him into the teleport to get back to the Rasha faster. But keep in mind, the bosses of the Ferumbra's Ascension, for whatever reason, have a 40 hours cooldown. And that's all I got for this video. If you want more options to hunt, check out this playlist. Thank you for watching, and a special thanks to the Guild Causality, to Nightstar and Tuna Hero for their support.